Wherein that one was inclusive of a pole and the cemented barrel, as opposed to an animal in my mouth. And this is why in the movies of the monster movies, King Kong and Godzilla, people want Godzilla to win more because he has shoulders like a human would, as opposed to Godzilla is more in the shape of an alligator standing upright would. And so when I'm talking about an animal's on my feet and my arms, it's more King Kong-like, as opposed to in the mouth, Godzilla having shorter arms. But still, to the point of contact when Godzilla and King Kong collide is that infinitesimal point source where you can subjugate photons, and the more that you do this in layering of these high complex like semiconductors built off the crystal, you know, wafer of a single crystal, is the impact that shows either King Kong or Godzilla getting over on each other. Because one has to get put over or they both get knocked equal. But forget monster movies. I started today talking about Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. This is what humans, we're not monster sized, so we do monster-like judicial stuff that leads to wars, and wars would of course be what are the size of monsters. And in pointing the finger, fingers get burnt. Americans, we have the Patriot Act. We say that the Congress has no thing possible for them to override our freedom of speech. And so when judges put on gag orders on people, there's no such thing. That should be a real thing. And like, no one can enter your home. The federal government, with the search warrant, they have to get like another federal government involved, these two characters, before they can just go in. Now more than ever, it's technology where we just got the internet, and then like 2 decades later, we find out there's this thing called AI. The movie Terminator consolidated as Spynet. I'm trying to remember, I put things so a wick that could be looking like this, but it's a stem, would ostensibly be in a marker right here. Is that illegal? But then people who was like, how when you're attacked, it's by either something you can see or something that you can't see. And under electron microscope, you can see anything. So the gathering of small bits about you is either good or bad, and that's why we have free will. But if you're able to see something scattering across, something that was dangerous because it was going and hurting you, literally, that would be the whole game of Metroid. Or Doom. Nice backdrop. So on the secant from this would be right here, right? It's where I supposedly had my X marks to spot. Haunted house. Wit. But you can't roll out crystalline structures on everything, because some stuff might be vitamins going into your body, and so then you would want them going in. So the crystalline structure of that, of course, is equal to a bacteria doing that if it was a virus. And so how much of the infiltration do you think killing a cell would be? No, a vitamin would be keeping it alive, and that's the other name of the game. They're 8-gauge quark gluons. And then 8-gauge quark gluons, these are things that make up atoms of either a virus or your cell or a vitamin, and that's the game of life. So momentum's hard to track in real time, and that's why robots aren't alive, because they can't have senses that are accurate to time. But isn't that how Albert Einstein got the GS to work? Is he discovered time, and we use that same technology in GPSs where it's relevant to do a measurement. So at what point? In Super Mario N64, this was around snow, and then you could go on that so you wouldn't fall, and there were just corners that you would always fall unless you used the traction marks, like that rock. Or a sidewalk. There should be like, in airports they have sidewalks that move and they're electric, and you can stand or walk really fast on them. That should be able to be on not only every sidewalk if you wanted it, but every park. But it should be cement. And why tuning forks are so impressive is that electronic equipment like synthesizers are the same exact thing, but they're relevant to temperature because one goes off electric and the other goes off whatever is air pressure. And if your designs on drawing are accurate but simplistic, it's the ultimate, because you can always make it look better on projections of drawing on another thing on top of it. And everyone gets free ice in cups if you're cooling down a drink by doing that. What's the difference of that and then $1 off if the vendor was supplying it? And in between grasping for air after dry heaving, because you can't stop throwing up, would be if you were in a bad area, a whole bunch of bad breaths. And this is political stunt, because if everyone had the same identity, inwards and outwards, the crystalline structures wouldn't matter. So today I think I saw like this phrase saying how like we need to all be the same to be happy, and that's clearly not the case, because the more that you're less and less like everyone else and for your own identity, the more and more you're going to have scalability and an edge. Because I'm about to go through an extensive list of how crystals are the makeup of like your cells in a basic freeze frame, but within time it's like you're going to always be regenerating cells, but in some places less and more so. The equivalence of the less and more so would be how you're gonna have chalk, the difference of that to paint and then chalk can be made differently, but at what point are you turning one to the other is just as a cardiovascular system is to the clothes you're wearing when you're engaging in it, engaging in heavy activity. So when there's given vitamins or poisons, it can be eating away or adding to the strength of your core. What's your makeup? Is your nervous system? Is it your spine? Your cerebral cortex? Perhaps all of these, as each step it bounces on your left and your right, and harmonics is why we've got two sides of our bodies that are almost mirror imaging, like two wings of butterflies. But let's not be silly. A butterfly's wings has patterns on it, almost as if I had a shirt and it was whole. So semiconductors are important because that's what you can do to have two things be one with a source of power other than an outlet. So if you're generating stuff from your body, I'm not saying that we have honeycombs in our body, but if you put all the glands together and look at what they do, you know, drip out stuff, kind of like an udder or a tree. Whenever you hit a tree open, it saps out stuff. So I mentioned crystals so much today is because a point source is an infinitesimal, and it has photons, which is light. It excites an atom, and it is emitting from the atom to a receiver. And this is what is half of every interaction, because everything is wave and particle. So if you were to pick out any point in time, the areas around it would look crystal-like because of gravitational lensing. Gravitational lensing all the other atoms around it because they have weight on the interaction, because it takes time for photons to interact with the electron. The lighter atoms get interacted with first, and one of the lightest atoms, hydrogen, doesn't get interacted with photons at all when we're in terms of X-rays, which bounce off atoms the most notably, but skip hydrogen altogether, and that being the most abundant and lightest atom is a huge deviation.